So to get images onto our web page, what we're going to use is the image tag. I'm going to put an image for each of these floors. I'm going to put in an image, so I'll just put the images within the sections here. So for the ground floor, we could have an image. We just use this tag, img. This is a tag where we don't need a closing tag as well. We don't need to write something like that. We just have the image tag, and in there we have some attributes. Importantly, we have this one, src equals, and then in quotes, src stands for source, and this is just where we're going to find, where the browser's actually going to find the image. You could have a URL in there if the image was stored somewhere on the web, or if the image is on your web server, or in this case on my computer in the same place as the index.html file. I can just put the direct path there to the image. What I've done is just here, where I've got my index.html document saved, I've put in a folder here. I've called it img. This is just good practice here. Keep things organized. Rather than put all my images in here with the index document, I've made a little folder called img. Img is just short for image, and I've got several here of my own photographs of the building. What I could do is for a nice photo of the building, I could go onto the web. I could find a nice photo of the building. I could do something like control click on my Mac to save the image to here. That would be like right click on Windows, I think. But I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do that because I didn't take this photo. I do not own this photo. It's not my photo. We really need to respect the copyright of these images. If you want to use images, particularly ones if you're planning to download them to your computer or to your web server, just check the copyright information of these images. Look for a Creative Commons license. Look for licenses that allow for reuse, perhaps modification. Often these will ask for the owner of the copyright to be acknowledged, for there to be attribution there, meaning that just somewhere on your page you should say who this image actually belongs to, where it's come from. I'm going to use my own photographs here that I've taken, so these images that I own. Just some silly ones I've taken on my mobile phone. I've taken some pictures of the carpets on the different floors of this building. So, on the ground floor, the carpets look a bit like that. On the first floor, the carpets look like this. They're just different colours. So to get these images into the website, I've got this source here. I want to just put in, let's just copy this. This is going to copy the name of that file. So if I copy that into the source, let's just save that. Let's just reload the browser. This isn't going to work. What we get here is a broken image here that just says something's gone wrong with loading this image. And that's because this is not the path to this file here. It's not done properly. Remember, I've got it in the image folder. So if I just put image / and then the file name, this should now work. And there we go, it's loaded, it's huge. We've got this horrible right scroll on our page now. So what I could do here is just set the width. If I set that to 100%, reload it, there's no right scroll here on the website. It's still quite a large image there. But what setting this to 100% has done, it said I want the width to be 100% here of the viewport of the area here of the browser. I don't have to use a percentage. I could put that into pixels if I wanted as well. So that if we said 300 pixels, do it like that. There we are. We've got it like that. Just to mention, this here is quite a large file. Let's see, yeah, this is 2.9 megabytes. That's okay if I'm opening it up on my own computer. But if I had that on a web server, that's a lot of data really to be sending over the web. If someone's accessing that on their mobile phone, that might annoy them if they're on pay-as-you-go. The original image is huge, as we just saw. We're scaling it here. What's really good practice is actually to just make smaller versions of your image, versions that are only as large as they need to be. We'll just keep this one for now. It's good to specify the width and the height of the images on your website. If we just put 300 pixels for that, because it's a square image, that shouldn't change anything. You'll notice when I reload here, there's that kind of slight blink, that slight flash here. And this is because web pages always take a little bit of time to load. This is loading very quickly because it's just all on my computer. When you load a web page, often the text loads faster than the images. So if you say what the width and the height is here of the image, before it's even loaded this image, the browser's going to know, just what sort of area it needs to reserve for that image to go into. So you don't get, on slow connections, you don't get that horrible thing when, you get the text and then as soon as the images load, everything starts rearranging itself. This just helps with that. A really important thing to have actually in this source tag is just an alt here. And this is where we just give a little description of what the image is. This is particularly important for people with visual impairments, people that might not be able to see the image. And I could just write a little description. So carpet has grey stripes. I don't know what's helpful there. That makes no difference to the actual image, but it's just one of those important things to have. I'm just going to copy what's written there, and I'm going to put exactly the same thing in that section, in this section. Keep stuff nicely laid out, and in this section. And because I just used a nice convention there for naming my files, I've got 1 floor carpet, I've got 2 floor carpet, and I've got 3 floor carpet. So if I save that, I can reload the page, and we see the ground floor carpet, we see the 1st floor carpet, 2nd floor carpet, and the 3rd floor carpet there. I've got the stripes going in a different direction there. I'm sorry if that annoys you. There could well be a way when we think about starting a website to rotate the image, but a much better practice, of course, is if I went into an image editor itself and just rotated that. As I said earlier, when you copy and paste stuff, you've got to be careful, because this is where errors can start creeping in. An error that's crept in here is this alt tag. This alt tag has remained the same each time. The alt tag is actually, or the alt attribute, I should say, is wrong for these here, and that might be something you just don't notice when you're making your site. So be careful. So on the 1st floor, it's kind of, let's say it's red. On the 2nd, green, blue. Okay, so carpet has red stripes, green stripes, blue stripes. The pedantic amongst you might see some different colours in there, but let's say this is good enough. Now, what we've got here is a page that's growing in length. What might be quite nice to do, I think, here is to have, we can put it up here at the top, is to have a little menu so that we can have shortcuts to different sections on this website. So what we can do is we can look up here. This is, remember, the header section of our website. And what we can do up there, between the title and this HR, say, or even let's say beneath the HR, we can put in a nav section here, nav for navigation. This is a semantic tag, so if we save that, if we reload the page, that's done nothing, but it's just added another branch to our document tree here. And within the navigation area here, within the navigation block, we're going to sort of create some links. A good way for creating a menu, a typical way, is actually to use a list. To create that list, what we're going to do is use a tag UL. That stands for unordered list. We can close that there. And within this list block, we can say LI, stands for a list item. We close that. And I can just say item 1 there, LI, item 2, close that. If we just have a quick look, there we have item 1, item 2 in our list. Of course, we want this to be a menu pointing to different parts of our page. So let's say we want the first item to be pointing, say, to the ground floor section, capital ground floor, and then we want first floor. We might want the second floor and the third floor. Oops. Save that. Let's just have a quick look. Yep. Okay. We want these to link to other parts in our page. So we just use the A tag again. So this ground floor now is within this A tag block, and we give it an href attribute. And so rather than giving a sort of a URL in here, what we can use is what's called a bookmark link. So I'm just going to use the hash symbol there. Say hash, let's say 0FLR, so standing for 0 floor. And I'll do the same for these other parts of our menu. Need to close those tags. And for each of those, I'm just going to give them a unique bookmark here. So it's going to be 1 FLR, 2, 3. If we save that and we reload that, we get the links here now. I can click on these. They don't do anything just yet. Now these bookmark links, what that is doing is it's going to look for a tag in here that's got an attribute that tells it that it's got the identity 0 floor. We want to link down to the different sections really in our website. We've got the section here with the ground floor heading. So here for the section, I can just give it an ID attribute. I can say ID equals 0 FLR, and if I just copy that, I can say for the first floor we've got ID equals 1 floor. This second floor we can say ID equals 2 floor, and for this one we can say 3 floor, third floor. Okay, so let's reload. Nothing's really changed here on the site, but I think if I click now on ground floor, yes, it takes me to the ground floor section of the site. If I clicked on second floor, yeah, I get the second floor. If I click on third floor, we get the third floor there. It's not right at the top of our window, but it's because we've reached the bottom of our page there. I can't scroll up anymore. Got a menu here. The menu is looking a bit funny because it's just pointing to these specific sections. We might want the menu to point to, say, the introduction section and the about section here. If we had other sections down there, we might want it to point to those as well. What we could do here is say, let's just get that in line. We could say introduction there. We could say about there. Let's just say these will get the ID intro, and we might create an ID about there. Remember to put those into the relevant sections. ID equals intro and ID equals about there. We reload that. Yeah, we get the longer menu. This looks a bit funny though because these floors here, these sections about the floors are subsections of this about thing. It'd be nice to reflect that in the menu. And so what we want to do in this menu is create a nested list here. All that means is we want these list items to appear as a sort of sub-list of this about list item. Let's just start by indenting all of those there. We need to put that list item tag around it. We can't just have it like this. Actually, what we need to do is say that this is an unordered list. And that's an unordered list that is within that other list. It's nested within this other list tag. Let's just have a look. There we go. Okay, so this is now a nested list within the about section. It should still work. It does still work. Yep, we're looking good there. So this UL tag, just to say, stands for unordered list. A different kind of list might be the ordered list. So if we put an OL there, let's have a look. We get numbers there. That's just the default. We could style that different. We get numbers from an ordered list. Remember, this nested list is still UL, so that's unordered, so we just get the bullets there. Let's just change that back to what it was. Reload. So the next thing that might be nice to do to this website, I was thinking, is I mentioned here the ground floor has a cafe and social area, and I thought it'd be nice to have a cafe section here on the page. I could put the cafe section as a subsection of ground floor there, or I could put in another section sort of down here about the cafe, but perhaps we want a separate page for the cafe itself. That's just a design decision we can make. So what I'm going to do is just I'm going to create here. So in the same folder as my index.html, I've created a cafe.html file. I can open that up here in Sublime, and it's just blank. It's just blank at the moment. And I want this cafe page to be very similar to everything that's on my index page. So actually, if I just start by selecting everything that's here, use my keyboard shortcut to copy what's there, I'm going to paste it all in. I want this cafe section to retain the sort of the heading and the menu that we had here, the navigation, I should say, sorry. Might change the title of this part of the page to be Northumbria University CIS Building Cafe. Oops, Cafe. Do it like that, for example. Heading 1, we'll leave that the same for now. In our main section of the site, I think what we should do is just get rid of everything that's there at the moment, but we're keeping within the main section. We've kept the I should say just outside the main section. We'll close the main tag there. We've got rid of everything that's in the main section. We've kept our footer because we want that to be the same across our pages. We've kept our header because we want that to be the same across our pages as well. We want the same menu on our different pages. But what I want to do in this menu is just create an extra list item here in our sort of navigation menu, and I'm going to give that a link here. And because our cafe.html document is in the same directory there as our index.html, I can just say cafe.html there as the link. I can put cafe there, close that, close the list item, so save that. So if I reload this, yes, I get the cafe there on our navigation list. If I click on it, yes, it takes us to cafe.html. Of course, when we copied this, we hadn't put the cafe there onto our menu, onto our navigation. So let's just copy that, and we can just paste that in. It should be there now. But what we'll find, of course, is that actually, these things are just meaningless now. So what we've got to do is think about these not just being as the basic bookmark link, but we actually need to put in the what page it's on. So we just put in index.html there in front of the bookmark. There, save that. So if we reload that, if I click on introduction, it just takes us to actually the introduction section of our web page. I'm just going to go back to the cafe area. Let's just click on there. So if I clicked on, say, second floor, that loads up directly second floor there. Now I need to remember that I want to keep this menu, this navigation area, consistent between our pages. So even though it's a bit less meaningful here, I'm actually going to put that in index.html there, just so we're keeping our menu the same across our different web pages there. Right, so on our cafe page, having a little bit of text here, I think would be helpful. So we've got the main block here. We're going to have a section. Don't know what ID that will be yet. But in this section, we're going to have a heading to. You can just call it the cafe. We can have a paragraph of text. The cafe area as a stand selling drinks, snacks, and there is a large social area for people to use. Okay, and I've got some images of the cafe as well, so let's just put an image. Let's put the source for the image there. And close that tag. Let's just have a look to see what I've called those images. We've got Cafe 1, Cafe 2, Cafe 3. That's Cafe 2. Cafe 3 is the same. Let's go with Cafe 2, shall we? Cafe 2.jpg. Remember, it's in the image folder. And remember that we ought to be talking about the width and the height of our images here. So we can put in width equals what would we say, 50% there, and we should give it an alt tag as well. Alt equals, and it's cafe area. It's a view of cafe area there as well. We can take a look at this. The cafe, our image is sideways here. In our styling, we could rotate that image, but it's much better to actually edit the image itself, to use whatever software on your computer just to rotate that and get that the right way around. I won't do that just now. One more thing that I think would be nice to do on our website is to have a table in there. We could use a table to talk about, say, the opening hours of the building, perhaps in this about the building section. So if we go back to our index.html, we've got our about section here. We've got our stuff about the different floors. We've got a paragraph about the floors here. So let's just have we can have a paragraph here saying we won't create this into a section itself. We just have a paragraph here saying the building is open during the following hours, and beneath that we can create a table for the opening hours. So I'm going to create this table now. The building is open during the following hours. Close that paragraph. And so for a table, we need the tag table. Open that, we can close it. And in there, we're going to firstly specify that there's a row in the table. We say tr for table row. We close that tag. And within each row, we're going to have columns. What we use in HTML is actually this tag td for table data. We can close that. Let's say we'll have 2 columns in this one. If we just say for now that, so we've got our row 1, column 1 here, or table data 1, let's say row 1, column 1. This will be row 1 still, column 2, won't it? Let's make another row, tr for table row, which we need to close, and table data. So this is going to be row 2, column 1, and this, another one, it's going to be row 2 still, column 2, isn't it? Let's just save that. Let's just have a look at what we've done, and here we are. The building is open during the following hours, and we've just got our table here. You know, we've got row 1, column 1, got row 1, column 2, got row 2, column 1, row 2, column 2 there. This is a table, there's no grid lines on there, there's nothing styled about it at the moment, that doesn't matter. We want this to represent the opening hours, so I think what we need to do here is our row 1, column 1 is actually just nothing like this, just blank. Our row 1, column 2 would say when the building opens, and we want another column saying, let's just get that aligned, when it closes. And then, so down here, let's have something that says on Monday to Friday, and the building opens at, I can't remember, it opens at 8 AM. Let's just say 8 AM, and I think it closes at 10 PM. So we can say 10 PM there. And we're going to need another row beneath this because we want the weekend data there as well. So let's say on Saturday and Sunday, the building opens at, I don't know, 9 AM and closes at 6 PM. Let's just have a look. There we are. So the building opens on Monday to Friday, opens at 8 AM and closes at 10 PM. Saturday and Sunday opens at 9 AM and closes at 6 PM. These might be wrong, don't take my word for that. But there we have, we've made a table. Right, so an important thing to do now is to, if we actually try and validate our page, we're going to see if there are any errors on this, and in fact I think there are. What we can do is go here to validator.w3.org, which is the W3C markup validation service. It's just going to check to see that our HTML is written correctly. On the website, you can put in the URI, the URL for a web page in here. But what we can do, because our site is not on the web yet, we can do a file upload. So I'm just going to upload the index file to this service, and let's see what errors we can find. Well, firstly, we've got a warning here. Warnings are things that just ought to be sorted out. And the warning here says, consider adding a lang attribute to the HTML start tag. Pretty easy to read. If we're unsure about what this means, we can, just Google it, just search for what that means, and there'll be information telling you. A lang attribute. So an attribute is just something that's within the tag. So within the HTML tag here, we can say a lang attribute. Lang equals, and depending on what language your website's in, you just specify the language. The language code for English is EN there, so I can save that. Here, red ones. Red ones are serious errors that really you need to sort out. Now, I've got several of these errors here, but what you might notice is it's all the same thing. So it's the same problem that has caused this error to happen several times. And it's saying error, bad value 300px for attribute width on element image. Expected a digit but saw p instead. So well, we know that's talking about the image tag, we know it's talking about the width attribute, and we know it's something to do with this 300px. Here are our images. We said width 300px there. Error messages are always helpful, but there's often a sort of a limit to what an error message specifically can tell you. So it's saying expected a digit but saw p instead. A little bit confusing, but it's complaining about this letter p here. So it's reading the numbers in, gets this p and gets very confused. And actually, what my mistake here is that I shouldn't have written px there at all. I should have just written 300, and then that would be interpreted as 300 pixels. Now, web browsers are often very forgiving. It converted this into 300 pixels anyway. You can't rely on all browsers being this forgiving. You can't rely on all accessibility tools being this forgiving either. Just because it works on your browser does not mean that the HTML you've used is actually valid. You see that I've repeated this mistake several times. I'm going to just take out the px here for all of these. Let's save that. I think that's all of the images. If I just reload that here, nothing changes. It's still being treated the same way. If I go back to the validator now, I think if I just press back, if I choose the file again, index.html, open it, fingers crossed, yep, green, nice and green, no errors or warnings to show. Stuff has been sorted out there. We should check all of our pages, of course, so we can check cafe.html as well. Let's see what's wrong with this one. Yep, the same warning that we had before, and bad value 50% for attribute width. Now for that cafe here, it is treating it as 50%. If we just took out the percentage, what's probably going to happen is that it treats it as 50 pixels. They're tiny, nice and tiny. So this is perhaps something that would be better dealing with when we think about the styling of our pages. But if we want to think about the difference between percentages and pixels actually in the HTML, what we can do is let's not use this tab. Let's use this tab here. You know, we could just go on to our favorite search engine, HTML image, and we can just read about them here. And actually, I think what we're going to find is that the recommendation now for the height and the width of an image is we just always specify this in pixels. Just put in a number there, and if we want to express these as being percentages, then in HTML5 we should be thinking about that with the styling of the page rather than the in the HTML itself. So let's change that to be consistent with index.html. Let's change that so that well, 300 by 300, weren't they? So width 300, height equals 300. Okay, we'll save that. We needed to the lang attribute up here, lang equals en for English as well. If we reload our page, we should get that to 300 pixels. On our validator, we can go back, choose the file again. Might have been unnecessary. We just check it, and yeah, we're green. We're fine here. Okay, so what we've done is we've created a simple web page here. We've not worried about the styling. We've talked about just about the structure, using HTML5 to structure our web page. At the top, we have this heading section. We've got heading 1 in there about the building. We've got a menu here, which at the moment is just an unordered list. And these will link to, they bookmark different sections in our website. Our website is organized. We've got a main section here, and each of these are semantically sort of individual sections in themselves. These ones are subsections of the section that starts up here. We put in images, put a footer at the bottom of our page, and we used a table here. We also created a second page called Cafe, which is very similar to our main page as well. In the next video, in the next lecture, we can think about actually styling this web page. For now, we've just thought about the structure.